welcome to the Manteno Village Board meeting for Tuesday, September 3rd, 2019. I'd like to call the meeting to order, and if we could all please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, please.
Boyce. Martin.
Here.
Dole. Here. Crockett.
Here.
Geske.
Here.
Phillips.
Here.
We have a quorum tonight. As always, we have the approval of the minutes from our regular board meeting from August 19th, 2019. The minutes have been included in everyone's packet, and hopefully everyone has had the opportunity to review them. Are there any changes, additions, corrections, deletions in regards to the minutes? Seeing none, I'd accept the motion to waive the reading of the minutes and approve them as presented by the clerk.
I make the motion.
Motion by Phillips. Second by Martin. Roll call.
Phillips.
Yes.
Martin.
Yes.
Dole. Yes. Crockett.
Yes.
Geske.
Yes.
Motion carries. Public participation. Is there anyone that has signed up to address the board?
No one this evening, Mr. Mayor.
Village President's report. Tonight we have a number of different proclamations. Evidently September is proclamation month, and I always read these, so I'm going to go through these as quickly as I can. I think we have 4 of them. The proclamation for the Chamber of Commerce Week 2019. Whereas the Manteno Chamber of Commerce works with businesses, merchants, and industry to advance the civic, economic, industrial, professional, and cultural life of the village of Manteno. And whereas Chambers of Commerce have contributed to the civic and economic life of Illinois for 181 years since the founding of the Galena Chamber of Commerce in 1838. And whereas this year marks the 100th anniversary of the founding of the Illinois Chamber of Commerce, the state's leading broad-based business organization. And whereas the Chamber of Commerce and its members provide citizens with a strong business environment that increases employment, the retail trade and commerce, and industrial growth in order to make the village of Manteno a better place to live. And whereas the Chamber of Commerce encourages the growth of existing industries, services, and commercial firms, and encourages new firms and individuals to locate in the village of Manteno. And whereas the state of Illinois is the home to the International Chambers of Commerce, the Great Lakes Region Office of the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, the Illinois Chamber of Commerce, and more than 400 local chambers of commerce. And whereas this year marks the 104th anniversary of the Illinois Association of Chamber of Commerce Executives, a professional development organization for the Chamber of Commerce professionals. Therefore, Timothy O. Nugent, Mayor of the Village of Manteno, proclaimed September 9th through September 13th, 2019 as Chamber of Commerce Week in the Village of Manteno and call its significance to the citizens of the Village of Manteno. This will be sent to all the different chambers of commerce that are identified there. We also have a proclamation for, I'll read it. Whereas an intellectual disability is defined as a disorder caused by cerebral palsy, epilepsy, autism, or any other condition which results in impairment of or lack of normal development of intellectual capacities. And whereas intellectual disabilities originate before the age of 18 and generally continue indefinitely. And whereas due to the early onset of indeed debilitating nature of these disorders, many more children are affected than adults. And whereas one of the main purposes of the Knights of Columbus, a fraternal order with over 1.8 million members around the world, is to support various charitable causes that seek to make our families and communities stronger. And whereas the Knights of Columbus has donated more than $1.3 billion and volunteered over 640 million hours in service in the past decade. Whereas the Illinois State Council of Knights of Columbus will hold their 50th annual fund drive on September 20th through 21st, 2019 to benefit programs that serve individuals with intellectual disabilities, distributing proceeds to more than 1,200 service organizations throughout Illinois. Now therefore, I, Timothy O. Nugent, Village President for the Village of Manteno, do hereby proclaim September 20th through 21st, 2019 to be Helping Citizens with Intellectual Disabilities Days in Manteno, and urge all residents of the Manteno to support the valuable work and generous services of the Knights of Columbus. In addition with that, we have a letter received from the Knights of Columbus asking for permission to solicit. Mayor Nugent, the Knights of Columbus from St. Joseph's Church of Manteno will be conducting its 50th annual campaign for people with intellectual disabilities. This event was formerly referred to as the Tootsie Roll Drive. This event will take place in the Village of Manteno on Friday, September 20th and Saturday, September 21st at various business locations as well as throughout the state of Illinois. All monies collected will be equally distributed to 4 charitable organizations within Kankakee County. The Knights of Columbus is seeking your permission to schedule and position volunteers to solicit funds from 7 a.m. to 5 p.m. at various streets and businesses throughout the village. The street locations include Main Street at Division, Main Street at 3rd, Maple at Section Line Road, South Creek and Cook, and South Creek at Division. It should be noted that the Knights of Columbus Illinois State Charities has purchased general liability and accidental death coverage for both days of the event. We appreciate your approval to allow the continued success of our annual campaign. Chris Lewis, Adam Dotson, and Jim Bender, event co-chairman and grand knight. I would accept a motion to approve by voice vote the request for the Knights of Columbus to solicit on September 20th to 21st.
I make the motion.
Motion by Phillips, second by Geske. All in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same sign. Motion carries. Chief, will you make sure that they have cones or whatever equipment that they need to have? Another proclamation for National Rail Safety Week. Whereas 2,214 rail grade crossings collisions resulted in 819 personal injuries and were responsible for 270 fatalities in the United States during 2018. And whereas 1,050 trespassing incidents have occurred in the United States, resulting in 571 pedestrians being killed and another 479 injured while trespassing on railroad property rights-of-way during 2018. And whereas educating and informing the public about rail safety, reminding the public that railroad right-of-ways are private property, enhancing public awareness of the dangers associated with highway rail grade crossing, ensuring pedestrians and motorists are looking and listening while near railways, and obeying established traffic laws will reduce the number of fatalities and injuries. And whereas the International Association of Chief of Police, National Operation Lifesaver, United States Department of Transportation, and local, state, and county and railroad law enforcement officers, first responders, and railroad corporations commit to partnering together in an effort to educate at a national level all aspects of railroad safety to enforce applicable laws in support of National Rail Safety Week. Therefore, I, Timothy O. Nugent, Village President for the Village of Manteno, do hereby attest my full support proclaiming September 22nd to the 28th, 2019 as National Rail Safety Week, and encourage all citizens to recognize the importance of rail safety education. We have a couple officers, I believe railroad officers, who actually live in the Village of Manteno and do patrol the railroad right-of-way, pretty frequently, and so make sure that people do cross at the designated locations. I know they're always out in force at Oktoberfest, which is going to be coming up in a couple weeks, and I've actually issued citations to people that cross wherever they choose. So make sure that you cross at the designated right-of-ways for the railway safety. And the final proclamation is the Constitution of the United States of America, the guardian of our liberties, embodies the principles of limited government in a republic dedicated to rule by law. And whereas September 17th, 2019 marks the 232nd anniversary of the framing of the Constitution of the United States of America by the Constitutional Convention. Whereas it is fitting and proper to accord official recognition to this magnificent document and its memorable anniversary and to the patriotic celebrations which will commemorate it. And whereas Public Law 915 guarantees the issuing of a proclamation each year by the President of the United States of America designated September 17th through September 23rd as Constitution Week, and asks our citizens to reaffirm the ideals of the framers of the Constitution had in 1787 by vigilantly protecting the freedoms guaranteed to us through the guardian of our liberties. Now therefore, I, Timothy Nugent, by the virtue of the authority vested in me as Village President of the Village of Manteno, do hereby proclaim the week of September 17th through September 23rd, Constitution Week in the Village of Manteno. All those will be signed and sent to the appropriate requesters. The only other information that I have is just a request from our Code Enforcement Department. We've noticed over the course of the last several weeks that we have started to notice a lot of trash that's been placed out at the curb. And obviously on garbage day, that's the appropriate place for it. But people are starting to put stuff out. If our garbage collection is on Monday, we're seeing stuff being placed out there on Thursday of the previous week, waiting for 3 or 4 or 5 days before the garbage man comes along. We work very hard. The Public Works Department, the Police Department, all the members of the village work all the time to try to keep the town looking clean and well kept, and to have mattresses and chairs and couches placed out at the street for the entire weekend leading up to Monday, or in this case, this week, Tuesday, garbage day, it certainly doesn't do any favors to the neighborhoods or to the appearance of the village. So while the garbage company is happy to collect the things on their given day, we ask that you please don't put things out until the night before or the morning of the garbage collection. I know the code enforcement officer has stopped at a number of different places, and we want to be reasonable too, but understanding that 3 and 4 or 5 days in advance is not, it doesn't do anyone any good, and it doesn't make the village look any better. And like I say, we work hard to try to keep it looking neat. So please abide by those rules and regulations. Village Administrator's report, Mr. LaRock.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have one item to discuss. The Census Bureau has started the field operations for the 2020 census. They do have people out in the neighborhoods verifying addresses. Right now, that'll go on until mid-October. They will have badges on them. If you're unsure whether they're actual employees of the Census Bureau, you can ask to see those badges. In March, they will probably start with the mailings, and then after that goes through, they will have people out going door to door, also verifying different information in the household if they don't get it out of the mailings. So it's a little bit of a lengthy process. We started actually verifying addresses earlier this year. I had a lot of help with that from Ryan, our code enforcement guy. And we've got another process to go through for any new construction, so it's about a year and a half long process. It is very important because this is how we get our funding for a lot of our sources. So the information is not shared with anybody else. It's kept completely with the Census Bureau, so you don't have to be afraid to answer the questions honestly and worry about any kind of ramifications from that. So we encourage everybody to fill that out. And if you do see people going through the neighborhood, again, if you're unsure and you don't want to approach them yourselves, you can always call the police department and let them do it. But you may see that, like I said, through mid-October of this year, and then again probably sometime in March and April of next year. So.
Well, like you said, it is important for us to get an accurate count, because the more people that we can count, our state funding, our different taxes that come back to this, to the village through a variety of different entities, comes based on population. So the more people that we can claim to be residents. I mean, a couple things. We want an accurate count so we know, and we also we don't want to leave any money on the table at the state level for people that live here that weren't counted. So, and like I say, it's nobody has to be wary of any retribution for whatever questions that might be asked. I haven't gone through the process yet myself, but I do know that it's important to make sure that we have an accurate count so that the village can receive the different fundings that we are entitled to.
And one interesting fact, 10 years ago at the last census, they had to hire 150,000 people to verify addresses. And because of satellite imagery, they're only going to have to hire 40,000 this time. So things are changing. Technology is definitely advancing a lot of avenues that we deal with. So.
And the badges that people have are actually issued by the Census Bureau. It's not something that the village is issuing.
Correct. It's by the Census Bureau, and they said you can also ask to see a second photo ID, and they're required to produce that second photo ID to verify it's the same person. So.
And they're not selling anything, so you don't need a credit card to talk to them. You don't need to show them your electric bill.
Yeah, if they discuss energy, those are not the census workers.
Yeah.
That's all I have this evening.
Thank you, Mr. Rock. The committee reports, Public Works and Utilities. Mr. Boyce is not here tonight. He does have a number of things on the agenda. Mr. Martin, you're going to take those?
Yep, no problem. Old business on the agenda, none. New business on the agenda. Ordinance 19-15, an ordinance authorizing the sale of personal property, surplus municipal equipment. This is Public Works. Jim will be replacing 3 pickups with new models. The current trucks are being surplus so they can be sold to offset most of the expense of the new trucks. Jim, you have anything else in a nutshell?
No, that's it.
Alrighty. And then for consideration, a motion to waive competitive bidding requirements and to authorize the purchase of 1 2019 F-250 Ford pickup with a plow and liftgate for a price of $38,925, and two 2019 Ford F-250 pickup trucks with plows for a price of $33,325 each from Taylor Ford Manteno. These are state price bids, so the new vehicle purchases have been researched and discussed at several committee meetings, and due to the high resale value of the pickups, the board determined it would be beneficial to replace 3 trucks this year, and this is a budgeted purpose, or budgeted purchase, yeah.
And these are state bid prices, so that's the reason that we don't have to go out to get competitive bidding, because the state's already done that. And the difference in the 2 vehicles or the 3 vehicles, one's higher than the others, and that's because there's a lift gate on one and there's no lift gate on the others, correct?
Correct.
And then lastly, a motion to approve the acceptance of a grant of permanent utility easement from Earl T. Giroux and Janet M. Giroux, trustees under the provisions of a trust agreement dated February 16, 2000, for vacant property located along South Cypress, parcels number 03-02-28-300-008 and 03-02-28-300-009 and 030-02-28-300-010. Aqua Illinois is working toward installing water and sewer mains to service undeveloped parcels in the south end of the village. As part of that process, utility easements were needed, and the village is helping facilitate those improvements by accepting and recording those easements.
These easements are for the water and sewer that is going south from the village down towards the new interchange, the Bourbonnais Parkway or the 6000 interchange. So this is to bring, to get the easements to afford the ability to service that area for development that hopefully will take place.
And that's it.
Thank you, Mr. Martin. Properties and Recreation, Mr. Martin.
I have no old or new business. Jim, do you have any updates, anything in the parks?
No updates.
Not since last meeting?
Correct.
Okay, then we're good. Next, if needed, on October 16th, 7 o'clock here will be our next Parks and Recreation Commission meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Martin. Public Safety and Health, Mrs. Dole.
Thank you, Mayor. I don't have any action items on the agenda tonight. My next public safety meeting is September 11th at 7 a.m. at the Village Hall Conference Room. Had a couple of safety tips. This Saturday at 11 a.m., a large number of motorcycles will be leaving Steam Hollow Brewing Company on Spruce Street and heading to Route 45 for a bike run fundraiser. Please be cautious when driving in that area all day, as they may be returning later in the day. Motorcyclists continue to ride throughout the fall season until the weather gets too cold. Always be aware of motorcycles around you when driving. Because of their narrow profile, they can easily be hidden in a blind spot or behind another vehicle. And always give motorcycles plenty of space so they can maneuver around a hazard if necessary and have plenty of time to avoid other vehicles that don't see them. Most motorcycle accidents involve another vehicle, which is usually at fault. Be cautious, so you're not the one that causes that accident. And remind
Just a comment, are the police department aware of the poker run, or have you got notification of the poker run that's going to be coming out of Steam Hollow?
Yes. That's what you're talking
That's the
about.
one, yeah.
We'll have somebody there.
And September 17th is Lifestyle 360, and the topic is keeping fit indoors, with Fitness Premier being the speaker. 9 a.m. social time, 9:15 for the guest speaker, 9:45 for safety presentation, and 10 to 10:30 social time. So keep that date open our third Tuesday. So that's all I have.
Thank you, Mr. Dole. Planning and Zoning, Mr. Crockett.
Thank you, Mayor. I don't have anything on the agenda this evening, but we do have a Planning and Zoning Committee meeting scheduled for Tuesday, the 24th of this month at 7 a.m. in the Village Hall Conference Room, and a Planning Commission meeting also scheduled for Tuesday, the 10th of this month, 6 p.m. here in the Village Boardroom. And that's all that I have for this evening.
Mr. Crockett. Finance, Mr. Geske.
Thank you, Mayor. The only items I have is payment of bills amount of $42,306.80, which includes TIF bills. I have TIF number 1 of $20,488.50, $499.51. We've had bills authorized and paid between board cycles in the amount of $51,692.73, and the next finance committee meeting scheduled for September 11th at 7 a.m.
Mr. Geske, General Government, Mr. Phillips.
I have nothing on the agenda tonight.
So the items that we'll be voting on the consent agenda tonight are as follows. Under old business, nothing. Under new business, ordinance 1915, which is an ordinance authorizing the sale of personal property, surplus municipal equipment. Item number 2 is a motion to approve the acceptance of a grant of permanent utility easement from Earl T. Giroux and Janet M. Giroux, trustees under the provisions of a trust agreement dated February 16, 2000, for vacant property located along South Cypress Street, parcels 030228300008, 030228300009, and 030228300010. Motion to waive competitive bidding requirements and to authorize the purchase of one 2019 F-250 Ford pickup with plow and liftgate for a price of $38,925, and two 2019 Ford F-250 pickup trucks with the plows for a price of $33,325, each from Taylor Ford of Manteno. These are state bid prices. And the payment of the bills, in the motion to pay the bills in the amount of $42,306.80, of which $20,499.51 are TIF 1 bills. Are there any items on the consent agenda that need to be voted on individually? Seeing none, I'd accept a motion to take a single roll call vote on the question of passage of the agenda items as read.
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Crockett, second by Geske, roll call.
Crockett.
Yes.
Geske.
Yes.
Martin.
Yes.
Dole.
Yes.
Phillips.
Yes.
Motion carries. I'd accept a motion to approve by unanimous vote the ordinances, resolutions, motions, and orders contained in the consent agenda as read.
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Martin, second by Crockett, roll call.
Martin.
Yes.
Crockett.
Yes.
Dole.
Yes.
Geske.
Yes.
Phillips.
Yes.
Motion carries. Comments, you have anything tonight, Mr. Martin? Mrs. Dole?
Just remember, kids are back to school again, so it's the second week, so just be cautious and make sure you pay attention to the school buses and the crossing guards and everything, so that's all.
Speaking of crossing guards, we've got crossing guards out again at all these, and the same people are back year after year, and they're dedicating themselves. I see that on Division Street in Poplar, the same two, they're putting the placards out every morning, so we've got a pretty dedicated group of crossing guards that have been doing it for 30 years, I think, so, yeah, be very careful of it. Mr. Crockett?
No comments this evening.
Mr. Guest?
I have nothing.
Mr. Phillips?
Nothing.
I have nothing either. I'll accept a motion to adjourn.
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Dole, second by Crockett, roll call.
Dole.
Yes.
Crockett.
Yes.
Martin.
Yes.
Geske.
Yes.
Phillips.
Yes.
Motion carries. Thank you very much for coming and for watching.